topics that we're going to dive into today will be eligible activities and tieback. This information may seem a little elementary for some of you, but these topics are based off of feedback and questions that we continuously receive during community infrastructure technical assistance conversations with local governments. So when we talk about what are public facilities and public improvements, in the late 1900s, around 1974, the Housing and Community Development Act was passed, and that particular act nor CDBG has clearly defined what a public facility or private improvement is, but they did leave space for interpretation, and historically, traditionally, what those words or terms have come to mean throughout the industry is publicly owned or public facilities or private improvements that are owned by nonprofits and of course by local governments, facilities open to the general public, and also improvements that traditionally have been provided by local governments. What is excluded are buildings for the general conduct of government. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. If anyone wants citings on general conduct of government, that would be in the HCDA section 102A21. And that talks very specifically about general conduct of government eligibilities. So getting into some examples, what are public improvements? Of course, we're talking about sidewalks, curbs, gutters, parking lots, utilities, private facilities, firehouses, police stations, schools, libraries, and shelters. And so I want to take us through an eligibility checklist. So based off of community infrastructure, is a public facility improvement eligible for funds? So looking from a very wide scope, using our action plan and what the guidelines of our program are, and using the definitions of eligibility from HUD. Is it located in the HUD or state mid? If we answer yes, it's eligible. No, ineligible. Is the applicant a local government for the purpose of CI? Eligible. If the answer is yes, eligible. So once we've identified the location, the applicant type, now we're getting into the activity type. Does the activity fall within one of these definitions that come straight out of 2 CFR? Is it the acquisition? Is it the construction or the reconstruction of one of those defined public facilities improvements that we've just talked about? If yes, again, eligible. If no, we need to pause because it's ineligible. Then we get into that general conduct of government and emergency operation build centers. The question here on our eligibility checklist would be, will this public facility be used for general conduct of government business? And sorry about that, I see a typo, government business. And based off of the definition of general conduct of government means city halls, county administrative buildings, state capitals or office buildings, and then other facilities where government work and operations are taking place. Based off of the definition, this does not include fire stations and police stations. They are exempt. Now, that's only if you will not be operating administrative services. And I jokingly say it right here. If you're trying to give the chief an office with a window to overlook the city, that is going to make the project ineligible. So let's think about it being for services to that service area, direct services. Exception 2 are barriers, architectural barriers that impede the use of the services to a government building by the elderly or severely disabled. So if we need to add some ramps to the courthouse, if we need to make it accessible, that is an exception. Okay, so 2 exceptions to those buildings that are defined as general conduct of government: fire stations, police stations, and removing barriers for at-risk or highly protected populations, our elderly and our severely disabled. Are there any questions right here? Does anybody have any questions about eligibility before we move on to tieback? And that general conduct of government, is that clear? Because we're getting a lot of questions on that one. Okay, so I will keep going. So now let's get into tiebacks. And let's talk about the three, well, there's 2 tiebacks specific or relevant to community infrastructure. We have direct tiebacks, or to all of our programs, basically. Direct tiebacks, indirect tiebacks, and then we have mitigation standalone infrastructure. And I think the easiest one to identify is that direct tieback. It's real, was there damage? Did the storm do damage? Did it knock a wall down? Did it tear the roof off? Did it knock out a generator? That one is really, really easy. It's that indirect tieback sometimes that I'm finding there's challenges in threading that needle and being able to understand. And when we talk about that indirect tieback, it may not have been physical damage, there may not have been anything destroyed, but there was some type of issue or uh, disruption of services to the community or the population that we are looking to serve. The primary goal of both direct and indirect tiebacks is to restore capacity and stability. And both of those tiebacks are funded through our full allocation. Unlike mitigation standalone, this would be where there is no tieback at all, and there's no tieback required, but you're not looking back at the storm, you're looking forward. This is completely forward facing. This is saying nothing bad happened, but next time it could. And we want to step in and we want to set some things in place in order to safeguard against future storms and disasters. And for this particular designation, we would be using our mitigation set aside pot of money. Okay. And this particular designation is not open in round 1. In round 1, we're looking at direct and indirect tiebacks. So let's go through some quick scenarios. Direct tieback to infrastructure. Storm came through, the emergency shelter flooded, and the roof caved in. Directly related. The damage was caused by the hurricane. We have proof of it. And the project that the local government is wanting to implement is to retrofit and rehabilitate a local warehouse. The warehouse has been sitting for a while, is out of the flood zone, and it will be perfect to serve for a high level shelter. What would be the documentation? Before and after pictures. Before and after pictures of the shelter that was destroyed, along with any FEMA PA and insurance claims, any engineering report, anything that can document the before and after and directly show the impact of the storm. Scenario 2, looking at indirect tieback. The shelter sustained 0 physical damage from the hurricane. The shelter is intact. It was the local school gym, it's intact. But how is it related to the storm? Well, during the storm, the school gym became overly crowded and people had to be turned away. But there is this warehouse down the street that has been sitting, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to retrofit it. We're going to rehab it in order for it to serve now as the new county shelter. See the difference? The difference is there wasn't any damage, but there was a disruption in services to the local community. Okay. So what would the documentation be? We don't have any before and after pictures because nothing was damaged. But what we do have is we have some shelter logs. We have some 911 dispatch records. We have some census data. We have documentation to show that this new project, this new warehouse, well, the concept of this new warehouse fits all of the needs of a community shelter, emergency shelter. Scenario 3, which mitigation standalone infrastructure projects. Again, this particular designation is going to be round 2. We will not be funding these types of projects round 1, but let's go ahead and begin to get a good understanding of what they would look like. Again, these projects are facing forward. There was no destruction to the school where the emergency shelter was. There was no overcrowding, but we did have some concerns about there being a future situation and the fact that the school wouldn't let people bring their doggies and their service, their animals. And so now we're realizing that due to changing cultures and community needs, we need to do better next time. And so we want to take this same warehouse and we want to retrofit it, we want to rehab it, but this retrofitting and rehab will be for a future need and use, forward facing. So what would be the documentation that we would be looking for? So let's talk about the project. So this project is going to be high power. We're going to put some solar panels. We're going to have some generators. It's going to be able to sustain winds. Probably all the same good stuff we put, even if it has a tieback, but it sounds really good here because it's mitigation standalone, right? So what type of documentation are we looking for? Well, because it's forward facing, we need to have a local hazard mitigation plan showing that this need has been identified and documented. There needs to be some type of risk-based assessment. And then it would be great if there's some type of engineering report design that shows that this building will indeed sustain the elements in the time of said disruptions due to weather. And so for the purpose of time today, and like I stated a little bit earlier, national objective is really meaty, and I want to be mindful of time.